Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome back. Actually, I wasn't feeling that great, so I was probably rushed a little bit. Sorry about that. I just got a couple of shots, the COVID and flu shots, so whatever. Anyway, I still feel like I feel the effects of that, but anyway, so we are like working on the latter part of the semester right now, and right now you're, I'm sure, hard at work getting a couple of things that are due right now done. That'd be the data journalism assignment, and of course the Megalomania assignment rewrite Megalomania rewrite, which is due on Monday. Again, I'm recording this over the weekend, so just remember to please get that in. Again, the class did well on that, and I'll have something to actually show you when we actually um, do this. When actually the assignment is completely in, I want to show you actually um, when sorry, what was this actually inspired by? I'm actually trying to type up something right now. I'm going to show you guys actually. Yeah. Um, anyway, I just want because there's one thing I want. It relates to the data journalism assignments. All right. So remember the Megalomania due on Monday. But I also have something else now I'd actually like you to do. And it's actually the beginning of the end, essentially, the data journalism assignment. Sorry, oh my God, I'm sorry. I was trying to call something up, I got all distracted. The major assignment, which is the final assignment, um, which is basically, it's going to be due the last day of class, which is December 14th. I know that's actually a Wednesday, but whatever. It's the last day of scheduled classes. I usually put these tapes out on Mondays, which I will still do in that week. But it is a requirement of this class, writing for me, to actually do a major assignment, which is basically just kind of another assignment we've been doing, only twice as long. Okay, so it basically requires a little bit more reporting, perhaps more writing, more anecdotes, that sort of thing. In this format, we would follow the traditional format we've been following, like we did with the COVID mask mandate story, which would be we'd have our lead, we'd have transitions, and we'd have anecdotes. Okay. But what I'm asking for first, before we actually get into that, is actually a proposal from you guys. Okay. A proposal on what you want to do. Now, I really encourage you to kind of keep this Rutgers centric, but it doesn't have to be, because I know some of you are not from Rutgers, and I've had people write about things in other countries and stuff like that. One popular topic last year, actually, I should say popular, but I had a number of students who were actually in Asia, and there was a plane crash out there, and what they wanted to do was they wanted to get a reaction to basically the aftermath to that, which was horrific and horrible. But so that's what they did, and that was actually one of the criteria you could use is something like, it doesn't necessarily have to be Rutgers, it'd be a reaction to, I mean, prefer these kinds of reaction stories, something that's not major, again, not major investigative, but something that basically is something that you can still report easily, just longer writing, and we're going to have a feature, we're going to have one other assignment between now and then. It's called a feature writing assignment. So you can probably employ some of those skills once we go through that assignment. All right, so let me just go to the shared screen and show, again, this will be posted on Monday. Okay. All right, now this is actually the teacher view because it was just a little bit easier for me. So again, we have the Megalomania assignment. I'm sorry, this is November 1st. Okay, it's actually, I'm sorry, this is actually due Tuesday. Oops, apologize for that. That's the Megalomania rewrite. Okay, data journalism. Okay, that's due November 7th. That's a week from Monday. Okay, I'll talk about that too. And then we have our major assignment proposal. Okay. So for this initial preparatory assignment, you will write a description of a proposed topic for a major assignment. I don't mean that to be like so intimidating. It's just like just another assignment we've been doing, just longer. Okay, and I want you, you're not going to pick this assignment as a class this time. You're going to do this individually. And if you need help, because you guys are working remote, we can post discussion points for you guys so you can get like reaction. But hopefully you have an idea ahead of time, like how you want to like tackle this story and like how you want to basically get reaction and whatever. I just basically suggest that you just do what we've done before, like a typical topic that people can react to, and then just write essentially a reaction piece. That's my to whatever event whatever thing maybe going on at Rutgers or whatever. Okay, because you guys are working remotely, and it's not like you can like work on campus all the time and like get like reaction from the president of Rutgers or something like that, or even like the head of a department or something like that. It's not even necessarily easy to access maybe professors or that sort of thing. But if you want to try for that, I would definitely take that into consideration. Something that requires a little more legwork. That's fine too. Okay. So you'll write a description of a proposed topic for a major assignment. Keep it to 2 or 3 sentences. Okay. I actually have a. Let's see here. Is this the one? No, that's actually your story. I actually have a. That's actually a story that worked. I thought, well, it worked well. Major assignment. And it's still not coming up because I keep pressing the wrong thing. Okay. All right. So here we go. I mean, it doesn't have to be necessarily set up like this. I'm just looking for a couple of sentences here, but proposed topic: how do Rutgers students feel about the housing selection process? Is housing for Rutgers students sometimes difficult to find? So basically, the overall idea is Rutgers housing. And as I've talked to you before, you try to find some sort of angle that's it kind of narrows it down into something more specific, and that is the reaction to possibly how difficult it is. Okay, and she basically got it from her own kind of like institutional, I guess you could say mind. Okay, and that is basically just some stuff anecdotally, just knowing what the process is like, you know, knowing other people might react to it and probably in a negative way. So she just said, well, I want to see how Rutgers students feel about student housing, whether on or off campus. So it's not just on campus, but off. Okay. I do, however, want to focus on the housing selection process for on-campus housing. The housing selection process just recently ended, but off-campus housing leasing is still going on. Okay. So, and basically she goes into some description of that. Actually, like you actually have a link to this proposal in your assignment entry. That's Morgan's right there. Here's another one. Jawin did some, I think this actually was the plane crash reaction. So anyway, I put that in there because some of you live very far away. So you can really write about any topic you want. Just like I would just give you some strong suggestions on what topics, to be honest with you, and what to go after. I mean, students are usually probably the easiest way to go. Okay. Or just like friends or whatever, neighbors, whatever, if you're living on a street and you're far away from a school or whatever. Okay. Okay. So your description should state the topic of the story and why you think it would be of interest to readers. Okay. Just like I had shown you there. Here is what the description and the story should focus on. What's timely? I mean, obviously you don't want to look at something that's like, unless it still has some sort of impact now. Okay. But something 5 or 6 years ago, maybe it's like the 20th anniversary or something, or the 10th anniversary or something, 5th anniversary or something. Usually those kind of landmark dates are important to people. If you want to do that, that's fine. But I would really probably, I mean, again, when you look at maybe like, I mean, I shouldn't say like maybe I shouldn't limit you just to limit just yourself to the Rutgers, because there's lots of stuff that's going on like in Washington now and all that sort of thing. We had this whole situation with Nancy Pelosi's husband was beaten up by some guy, who apparently has some sort of an agenda. I don't know, but anyway, so stuff like that, maybe, I mean, anybody can react to that sort of thing, congressional security, that sort of thing. Okay, something that's manageable. No major investigations, please. I will let you know. But I feel like even though you have like more than a month to do this, I feel like we've got other assignments going on, and I don't really need anybody unless you can really prove that you can do it. Do any kind of like data dig, that sort of thing, and basically come up with something like something to be like some big reveal. I mean, I love it if we all could do that, but it wouldn't be fair to you. Okay. So, and then of course, keep it simple, as I've been trying to describe to you. Basically, keep the topic narrow, specific, something that incorporates what we've talked about this semester, something that shows impact while also relatable. Okay. And again, 2 examples of those proposals and that worked. Okay. And I basically just told them that it was approved. Okay. When it came in. Maybe give you some suggestions on maybe how to go about it. Okay. So this description is due November 7th. What would the lead possibly be? I mean, one suggestion of like how you want to like basically go about this. I know you haven't done a reporting yet, so but you could maybe kind of guess perhaps. Again, use your institutional knowledge to help you out. This story is going to be 800 to 1100 words, and I'll be posting a separate entry for that. The story ultimately will be due Wednesday, December 14th, okay? But this proposal is due November 7th, all right? All right, so there's no rewrite on this. It's recommended, but not mandatory to submit the draft to me before this final story is due. So this is actually kind of like a project-oriented story. And those types of stories, I mean, where you write longer and you get more information, you want to actually, kind of work ahead. You want to maybe like present to me like the things you find and that sort of thing. That's actually how we typically approach these longer stories. We call a long form story essentially in the newsroom, okay, or even the remote newsroom, is that we kind of work on it with our editor ahead of time, and the final product comes, okay, and then usually at that point it doesn't need necessarily the editing, okay. And I'm also looking. That's another way I'm going to be looking at class participation, to be honest with you, because even if you feel like you've got a handle on it, you really should run it by me. Okay. People asked me in the beginning, like, how do I look at class participation? Well, here we are. Okay. And then the final submission will be done via Canvas in a separate entry. Okay. So that again is the major assignment proposal due November 7th, Monday, November 7th, week from Monday. Okay. All right. So let's look at again at data journalism. Again, I feel like maybe I went through this a little too fast. I gave you some examples of what to look for. You're going to again incorporate that elements of data journalism. One thing I really strongly suggest, a couple of you've done this, is I would definitely run by me ahead of time the 5 years you found basically of tuition increases, or if it was all 5 years, 4 out of 5 years. Oh, sorry, I just gave away an answer. Again, with this story, you want to really kind of bring out, so it's a layered story. You want to kind of highlight like maybe years where it was, the tax or the tuition increase was higher than other years, 2.9%. Oops, sorry. And it was 2 years. Oops, sorry. And just making sure you're watching this video. Anyway, so maybe some of the reasons for why that would be, okay? Okay, and again, this is a trend story. So your lead will actually be essentially that. It'll be essentially identifying the trend, okay? Rutgers has passed such and such number of tuition increases over the last 5 years, according to whatever media reports, according to Rutgers news reports, whatever, okay? I strongly suggest that you actually something, again, I probably should have done this earlier, but let me use this as my whiteboard. So something that basically like Rutgers is is the main noun here, okay? It's the main subject here, but part of that main subject is also the tuition increase. It has raised tuition X number of times past 5 years, and make sure that this is attributed. I did see some issues with that on the Megalomania assignment. The people got that information from documents that Bill provided, but didn't attribute it to the voucher or whatever. Okay, so all right, and then you want to basically get into again like these are all essentially transitions. Okay, why did they do that? Maybe like what stuck out. If there was a year or two where they didn't, raise tuition or something like that, that sticks out. Or the year that it was at highest. Explain reasons why. Maybe a year they didn't raise it. This is a layered story, so it just shows the trend. Maybe when you talk about like why, there's going to be like different reasons for why they raised tuitions 4 out of 5 years. So basically, you listed why they did that, and I mean usually it's because of a general reason. Usually it's some sort of a shortfall or whatever. They just didn't make enough money or something like that. But maybe it's a for example situation in blah blah year. They had to raise it because of this. In another year, this, and then of course maybe like I said, years that stuck out, years where they raised it their highest, years where the year or years where they didn't raise it at all, and why. So you're basically seeing like kind of a flow right here. Okay. One big thing I forgot to mention in my email last week when I sent out this lecture was that make sure you also contribute to the discussion point. A couple days ago, I don't know, maybe I saw that. I guess yesterday I saw there were 4 people. That's good, but I just want to see everybody really contribute to that. Okay. Remember that is also a way I measure class participation. let's actually look at where things stand right now with that. So then this is actually lower in the story. Oh, it's still 4, which is fine. But you know, it really should be more. Okay. Maybe again, you know, here we have thank you, Libby, thank you, Jonathan, Emily, and Evelyn. Okay. I like to see maybe like a little bit of an anecdote in here. You know, that's where this is where maybe the anecdotes come in. You tell little stories, whether they're stories. I mean, people who have to like work their butts off to like try to make ends meet and that sort of thing. Okay. All right. Let's see here. I'm just basically looking at my tuition bill goes towards so many ambiguous resources, most of which I never touch in my undergraduate career. It's a bit anecdotal because you know her tuition bill, you know, basically the things she has to pay for. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking for things though, like where maybe like people like talk about like where I have to work again my job and this many hours, that sort of thing. Um, you know, here's somebody bring up like, you know, we pay for all this stuff and the or Rutgers bus system still sucks. Actually, that's a pretty good anecdote right there. I'm lucky to have parent pay my tuition, but it's still a big expense. Okay, so you know, maybe like looking for a little more depth in these answers. That's fine, but I'm just glad people just participate in the first place. All right, but remember this is a class participation, okay, exercise. So, all right, so that goes like again toward the bottom of the story. It presents multiple perspectives to the story. Okay, um, you know, reaction from students. So we have like the numbers, we have the Rutgers officials who actually try to explain things, why the things the way they are, and again quoting whatever news reports. Remember, respectable news reports, not like college tuition compare or any of that crap. Okay, but and then basically also just you know basically getting the you know getting the students' reaction, you know the university's reaction, basically why things are so, and so there's like layers to this data journalism story, not just the numbers. Okay, the numbers are the main part of the story. Okay, you might get a little confused because you might see like talk about fees and stuff like that. I'm just really looking at the tuition hikes specifically. Okay, fees are they're too high too, right? But I mean that would kind of switch us away from the story. We're just looking at it's about the trend of tuition hikes. That's it. So let's just, I kept it to that because I wanted to keep it as specific as possible, kind of like branching off in the fees and things like that, which are not part of tuition, can like basically like make this like a muddy, convoluted story. Okay. And like I said, I have like a video here to kind of help people basically, you know, do this story. Okay. Um, basically dealing with Dave Willis and basically the kinds of things he does when he actually like finds information, you know, basically what they call essentially a I guess a gumshoe reporter, where they basically will dig things from their shoes to basically find out the gum from their shoes to find out that information. Okay. Um, all right. Like I said, respectable news sites only. Um, so all right. So again, how do you find it? Maybe like Rutgers tuition increase. We put in 2022. I put in some key search terms that you would use, find things, and there it is right there. 2.9% tuition increase for this current budget. Okay. And then, you know, they provide some of the reasons, accessible. They're trying to supposedly, I mean, you can include some of their apologizing, which I was still trying to provide it accessible, even when this is the big reason my son didn't go here. Sorry. They have financial aid, blah, blah, blah. This budget will support enriching experience. So they're basically trying to say they're raising money so they can provide a better educational experience, blah, blah, blah. You know, here's like you could include some numbers like the actually the amount of tuition, stuff like that. You know, include like how they're basically getting financial aid, things like that sort of thing, and they're proud of that. All right, but it's all. I just want to show you this because I meant to show you this last week. Some of these numbers are about some of these stories are about numbers and like how they kind of it's like always kind of a story behind a story. It's not just we're in the first half of the semester we might have just written about the tuition hike itself, the most recent one. Now we're writing a more layered story about a trend. Okay, and basically this will show you if you haven't heard about. I might talk about this a little bit last week. I don't remember, but but I'm going to show it anyway. Uh, there was a major scandal involving President Nixon. God, and it looks so small now compared to some of the stuff we've seen lately, right? But it was a major scandal involving Richard Nixon called the Watergate scandal in the early '70s, and it was about a break-in that his people essentially all put together and this sort of thing. But the big legal thing that he was involved with Nixon was that he covered it up so it would protect him. He didn't want to be sure that he had any kind of involvement in it like that. And he had some connections to the whole scheme, but not this specifically. But anyway, as in the 1972 presidential election, which he won by a tremendous landslide, very paranoid person. And the two reporters, Bob Woodward is still around, still appears on talk shows, things like that, and news shows. And Carl Bernstein does the same. Basically, were stuck on this story, and they knew about it, knew about some of the crap they were doing, the break-in, but they didn't know how to go about it. So they had this Bob Woodward had this source played by Robert Redford, who basically told them or showed them the way how to get to that most obtainable version of the truth that I've talked about. So let's watch that and make sure that it's actually a little quiet. Oh, have the Everton game on in the background. I hope it doesn't distract people. Hey, it's actually a little quiet. Let me just try to fix something here. Yeah. Sorry. I guess you can't hear that too well. I hope you have your volume way up. I don't know why it seems so quiet for me, but I tried to try and click closed caption because they're not available. But anyway, basically he's trying to find out that basically what they were looking for was like stuff on Ted Kennedy, who was possibly going to run against the younger brother of John F. Kennedy, possibly going to run against Nixon. Nixon was very paranoid of the Kennedys. Liddy was apparently the burglars were one of the masterminds behind it. Let me see.
Somebody said, "What's the trick?" And Liddy said, "The trick is not lightning." The story is dry. Pieces we can't seem to figure out what the puzzle is supposed to look like. John Mitchell resigns as the head of the Green. Says that he wants to spend more time with his family. Sounds like bullshit. Exactly believe that. Oh, it's touching. It's media's created by the White House. Truth is, not very bright guys. Things got out of hand. Supposedly he's got a lawyer with $25,000. I think they found the money.
We said follow the money. They found money basically that I hope you could hear that, but they found money that basically like be connected to basically paying the burglars and that sort of thing, and that's what they used essentially to kind of trace things up and find out there actually was a connection to the White House and that sort of thing. However indirect, and the people covering up and things like that to try to keep people silent. But yeah, follow the money was the big catchphrase. And so that's the money is basically what kind of helped bring things down for Richard Nixon, was he able to trace the money to his people and somewhat to him too. And basically, that was illegal. Okay. It was essentially bribes and things like that. Okay. I mean, money is important basically on every level. And what you try to do is you try to put things, when I talk about like adding layers to stories about money, it's basically putting things in the right context. So New Jersey's gas tax will go down next Saturday. Here's how we'll rank it compared to others. This is like earlier this year. So basically, the gas tax went down by a cent. What they try to talk about was basically the trend lines here. This marks the second consecutive year the tax has been reduced. Basically some context in how this came about. And then of course it compares it to other states, like where things are at. And this is your chart right here. When I ask you to do a chart, that's what I'm asking you guys to do, is do a list of the actual 5 years to show the tax increases at the bottom of your story. And it'd be similar to what is listed here. You would have the academic year such and such, and then the number, academic year such and such, then the number. Well, here's how they have it listed here. Same way, basically adds another layer to the story and shows a comparison. New Jersey used to be like really low on this list. Now it's actually really high at 11th. So yeah. So that's, again, a story based on a number, but adding layers to provide context, provide a more readable story. Okay. Provide more intelligent story. Okay. Judge orders sometimes when you judge orders somebody order like a big company to pay like maybe a couple $1,000 or something like that, it's not necessarily a big deal. Meta is the one company that owns Facebook and Instagram, but $10 million, that's a lot of money. Still probably a drop in a bucket for them. But basically, this is again another money story. Basically, it's about the number. It's about how the number is large, and so there's actually it's not necessarily a great publication here, but basically that mounted to a story because of the number. Then we got Trump. Long concealed records showed Trump's chronic losses. Remember what was the whole thing about his taxes? I'm not asking you to do a story like this, but this is a very much an investigative story. And basically, but it was all about, a lot of people knew that Trump didn't release his taxes, but why do we care about that? Because we want to know how much. Maybe has he lost money? Has he made money? It showed that he paid $750 in federal income taxes the year he won the presidency. That's a lot of money. In his first year, he paid this much, even though he's supposed to be a big money guy, right? He had a decade-old audit battle with 72.9. Now that suddenly the number gets large, huge losses, things like that. So it's all about the numbers and how they basically could show like him in the right frame of mind or the wrong frame of mind, and maybe like him doing maybe some bad things or good things. Okay. Stories just based on a number, just like we did on that assignment, going back, to the worksheet assignment, and basically I talk about how like the rise of skin cancer, murders, that sort of thing is all important. Okay. If you could just give me a second here. So actually, I'm trying to actually see if there's anything else that we actually really need to cover. We talked about that particular chapter, the investigative chapter, last week. Again, that was just really kind of to provide, I mean, you're not doing an investigative story with the data journalism assignment, but you are doing something that, again, requires some of the things that might require that you would typically, some procedures you typically would follow an investigative assignment. That would be like something along the lines of like digging up numbers, finding like different perspectives, that sort of thing. So that was the point of that. So I only have like 2 more chapters to deal with after this. It'll be chapters 8 and 12. So that'll be for the future reporting assignment, which I'll talk about next week. All right. So that's all I have for you now. Let me know if you need anything, any additional help on Megalomania, which you have a day to do, less than a day. And of course, the data journalism assignment. Okay. You probably should, like I said, really let me know like what you've come up with in terms of numbers. All right. Well, thanks very much, guys. And I will be talking to you.